the floor where they drop like bombs. Faceless voices running all the cons. Digital whispers in the binary night. No light, no face, pure sound, no sight. Stories unfold in the dark unscrolled. Echoes of silence, secrets untold. Waves crash loud in this audio cave. No mic, no fame, just the sound we crave. Tune and turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just a vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. In shadows, voices untamed. No need for spotlight, no claim to fame. Just a beat of life in a stream of thought. Every word a punchline, no need to be taught. Just listen close, no visuals needed. Raw conversation, unprocessed, unseated. Feel the pulse in every sentence said. No distractions, just thoughts in your head. Whispers of the streets, rumbling through. Faceless yet vivid, a world in view. No mic, just souls, connecting in flow. Pure and raw, let the rhythm go.
David Lewis 1941–2001 was an influential American philosopher known primarily for his work in metaphysics, philosophy of language, and philosophical logic. He's particularly famous for his modal realism, the view that all possible worlds are real, concrete entities. He also made significant contributions to topics like causation, counterfactuals, and conventions. In essence, he was a highly analytical and creative philosopher who tackled fundamental questions about reality and meaning. David Kellogg Lewis was born in Oberlin, Ohio, in 1941, into an academic family that fostered his intellectual development from a very young age. His father was a professor of political science at Oberlin College, and this environment steeped in intellectual discourse had a profound impact on Lewis's early life. He displayed exceptional academic abilities from an early age, demonstrating a keen interest in mathematics and philosophy. He attended Swarthmore College, where his philosophical interests began to solidify, and he excelled academically, earning a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1962. It was during his time at Swarthmore that Lewis developed a strong foundation in analytic philosophy, which would become the hallmark of his later work. He then went on to Harvard University for his graduate studies, where he was heavily influenced by the work of W.V.O. Quine, a leading figure in analytic philosophy. Quine's emphasis on clarity, precision, and a naturalistic approach to philosophy resonated deeply with Lewis, shaping his own rigorous and systematic approach to philosophical inquiry. The intellectual atmosphere at Harvard during the early 1960s was vibrant and challenging, providing Lewis with the perfect environment to hone his philosophical skills and develop his own distinctive voice. Lewis, d. 1966. An Argument for the Identity Theory. Philosophical Papers, 1 17–24. Lewis, d. 1966. Percepts and Color Mosaics in Visual Experience. Philosophical Review, 75 357–368. Lewis, D. and Richardson, J.S. 1966. Scriven on Human Unpredictability. Philosophy of Science, 33 303–306. Lewis, D. 1968. Counterpart Theory and Quantified Modal Logic. Journal of Philosophy, 65 113–126. Hodges, W. and Lewis, D. 1968. Finitude and Infinitude in the Atomic Calculus of Individuals. Notre Dame Journal of Formal Logic, 9-4, 393-400. David Lewis's first major work was his book, Convention, A Philosophical Study, published in 1969. This book, based on his doctoral dissertation, offered a rigorous and formal analysis of the concept of convention, drawing on game theory and philosophy of language. It explored how conventions arise and are maintained within social groups, focusing on the role of common knowledge and mutual expectations. Convention established Lewis as a highly original and technically sophisticated philosopher, laying the groundwork for his later work in other areas of philosophy, Anselm and Actuality 1970, and Counterparts of Persons and Their Bodies. Lewis, D. 1970. General Semantics. Synthese, 22 1-2, 18-67. Lewis, D. 1970. How to Define Theoretical Terms. Journal of Philosophy, 6713, 427-446. Lewis, D. 1970. Nominalistic Set Theory. News, 4-3, 225-240. Lewis, D. and Lewis, S.R. 1970. Holes. Australasian Journal of Philosophy, 48-2, 206-212. Early career late 1960s, early 1970s, Lewis Signaling Game, this emerged from his work on conventions. Convention, A Philosophical Study 1969, this work forms the foundation for his ideas on conventions and signaling. Counterfactuals 1973, this book introduced his analysis of counterfactual conditionals and possible worlds, laying the groundwork for modal realism. Possible worlds and modal realism, these concepts were integral to his analysis of counterfactuals, and then were expanded upon greatly in his later works. Lewis, D. 1971. Analog and Digital. News, 5-3, 271-282. Lewis, D. 1971. Completeness and Decidability of Three Logics of Counterfactual Conditionals. Theoria, 37-1, 74-85. Lewis, D. 1971. Counterparts of Persons and Their Bodies. Journal of Philosophy, 68-7, 203-211. Lewis, D. 1971. Immodest Inductive Methods. Philosophy of Science, 38-2, 227-233. Following the publication of Convention, David Lewis embarked on a period of intense philosophical exploration that culminated in his next major work, Counterfactuals, published in 1973. This book represented a significant departure from his earlier focus on social conventions, delving into the complex realm of modal logic and the semantics of counterfactual conditionals if-then statements about what would have happened if something had been different. Lewis tackled the challenging problem of how to provide a rigorous and systematic account of the truth conditions of counterfactuals, a topic that had long puzzled philosophers. He proposed a revolutionary solution, based on the concept of possible worlds. He argued that the truth of a counterfactual depends on what happens in the possible world that is most similar to the actual world, but in which the antecedent of the counterfactual is true. This similarity-based approach, while controversial, provided a powerful and influential framework for understanding counterfactuals, and it had far-reaching implications for fields such as metaphysics, Philosophy of Science, and Artificial Intelligence. Lewis, D. 1974. Intentional Logics Without Iterative Axioms. Journal of Philosophical Logic, 3-4, 457-463. Lewis, D. 1974. Radical Interpretation. Synthese, 27 3-4, 331-344. Lewis, D. 1974. Semantic Analyses for Dyadic Deontic Logic. Logical Theory and Semantic Analysis, 1-14. Lewis, D. 1974. Spielman and Lewis on Inductive Immodesty. Philosophy of Science, 41-1, 85-87. Lewis, D. 1974. Tensions. Semantics and Philosophy, 49-61. Lewis, D. 1975. Adverbs of Quantification, Formal Semantics of Natural Language, 3-15. Lewis, D. 1975. Languages and Language. Minnesota Studies in the Philosophy of Science, 7, 3-35. Lewis, D. 1976. Convention, Reply to Jameson. Canadian Journal of Philosophy, 6-1, 113-121. Lewis, D. 1976. The Paradoxes of Time Travel. American Philosophical Quarterly, 13-2, 145-152. Lewis, D. 1978. Truth in Fiction. American Philosophical Quarterly, 15-1, 37-46. Lewis, D. 1979. Attitudes de Dicto and de Esse. Philosophical Review, 88-4, 513-543. Lewis, D. 1979. Counterfactual Dependence and Times Arrow. News, 13-4, 455-476. Lewis, D. 1979. Scorekeeping in a Language Game. Journal of Philosophical Logic, 8-1, 339-359. Mid-career 1970s to 1980s, Counterpart Theory, developed as a way to address issues within modal realism. Humean supervenience, a core metaphysical thesis that he defended. Principle, dealing with chance and credence. The endurantism, perdurantism distinction, his contribution to the debate on persistence through time. On the Plurality of Worlds 1986, this book provided the full articulation of his modal realism. Lewis, D. 1980. A Subjectivist's Guide to Objective Chance. Studies in Inductive Logic and Probability, 2, 263-293. Lewis, D. 1980. Mad Pain and Martian Pain. Readings in the Philosophy of Psychology, 1, 216-222. Lewis, D. 1981. Are We Free to Break the Laws? Theoria, 47-3, 113-121. Lewis, D. 1983. New Work for a Theory of Universals. Australasian Journal of Philosophy, 61-4, 343-377. David Lewis's next major work, and arguably his most famous and controversial, was On the Plurality of Worlds, published in 1986. This book presented a comprehensive and detailed defense of his theory of modal realism, a radical metaphysical view that posits the existence of infinitely many concrete, causally isolated possible worlds, each as real as our own. Lewis's modal realism was not merely a theoretical exercise, it was a bold attempt to provide a unified framework for understanding a wide range of philosophical concepts, including possibility, necessity, counterfactuals, and the nature of properties. He argued that these concepts could be best understood in terms of the relationships between our world and the other possible worlds. In On the Plurality of Worlds, Lewis meticulously addressed the objections that had been raised against his theory, offering detailed arguments and thought experiments to support his claims. He defended the idea that these possible worlds are not mere abstract entities or mental constructs, but rather concrete, spatio-temporally organized universes, each with its own unique history and laws of nature. He argued that the apparent strangeness of this view stemmed from our ingrained tendency to privilege our own world as the actual one, and that once we overcame this bias, modal realism offered a simpler and more elegant account of reality than its rivals. Lewis, d. 1988, Statements Partly About Observation. Philosophical Papers, 2, 122-154. Lewis, d. 1990. What Experience Teaches. Proceedings of the Aristotelian Society, Supplementary Volumes, 64, 49-74. Lewis, d. 1994. Reduction of Mind. A Companion to the Philosophy of Mind, 412-431. Lewis, d. 1996. Elusive Knowledge. Australasian Journal of Philosophy, 74-4, 549-567. Lewis, d. 1997. Naming the Colors. Australasian Journal of Philosophy, 75-3, 325-342. Lewis, d. 2001. Sleeping Beauty, Reply to Elga. Analysis, 61-3, 171-175. Late career 1980s to 2001, de Esse, his work on self-locating beliefs. Descriptive Causal Theory of Reference, his contributions to the philosophy of language. Qualitative vs. Quantitative Parsimony, his analysis of criteria for theory selection. Ramsey, Lewis Method, an approach to defining theoretical terms. Gunk, a concept in mereology. Ontological Innocence, a concept related to the nature of sets and other abstract objects. Centered World, used in his work on de Esse attitudes. His work on these concepts were spread across many papers, and discussions, through the later parts of his life. Lewis, d. 2001. Sleeping Beauty, Reply to Elga. Analysis, 61-3, 171-175. David Lewis died on October 14, 2001, at the age of 60, in Princeton, New Jersey. He had been diagnosed with advanced diabetes, a condition that significantly impacted his health in his later years. The complications arising from this illness were the direct cause of his death. His passing was a significant loss to the philosophical community, as he was considered one of the most influential and original thinkers of his time. Reference and citation, biographical and general overviews. Weatherson, Brian. David Lewis. Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Edited by Edward Enzalta. First published July 23, 2009, substantive revision multiple editions e.g. Winter 2021. Nolan, Daniel. David Lewis 1941–2001. Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Edited by James Feaser and Bradley Dowden. ISSN 2161-0002. Salim Beni, Michel. David Lewis, La vie d'un philosophe. Clesis, Revue Philosophique 24 2012, 1–17. Lewis, Stephanie R. Intellectual Biography of David Lewis 1941–2001. Early Influences. In Philosophical Letters of David K. Lewis, edited by Helen Beebe and A.R.J. Fisher, 1:3, 25. Oxford, Oxford University Press, 2020. Works on Modal Realism and Metaphysics. Divers, John. The Modal Metaphysics of David Lewis. In Possible Worlds, 159–198. London, Routledge, 2002. Miller, Richard W. Lewis S. Modal Realism, A Critical Assessment. Philosophical Studies 52, No. 2 1987, 197–216. Stallnaker, Robert. On the Plurality of Worlds, A Review. Mind 96, No. 381 1987, 117–128. Jansen Lauret, Frederick, and Fraser McBride. David Lewis S. Metaphysics, A Retrospective. In Philosophical Letters of David K. Lewis, edited by Helen Beebe and A.R.J. Fisher, 1xxv, Slayeth. Oxford, Oxford University Press, 2020. Works on Counterfactuals and Causation. Collins, John, Ned Hall, and L. A. Paul, eds Causation and Counterfactuals. Cambridge, Ma, MIT Press, 2004. Hall, Ned. David Lewis S. Counterfactual Theory of Causation, 139–162. Paul, L.A. Lewis on Counterfactual Dependence, 277–290. Menzies, Peter. David Lewis S. Counterfactual Analysis of Causation. Australasian Journal of Philosophy 67, No. 4 1989, 455–473. Woodward, James. David Lewis and the Analysis of Causation. News 20, No. 4 1986, 555–572. Works on Conventions and Philosophy of Language. Gilbert, Margaret. David Lewis on Conventions. Synthes 68, No. 1 1986, 105–125. Kratzer, Angelica. David Lewis and His Place in the History of Formal Semantics. In the Science of Meaning, Essays on the Meta-Theory of Natural Language Semantics, edited by Derek Ball and Brian Raburn, 247–272. Oxford, Oxford University Press, 2022. Schiffer, Stephen. Lewis on Convention and Meaning. Philosophical Review 89, No. 2 1980, 257–278. Collections and Posthumous Reflections. Jackson, Frank, and Graham Priest, eds Lewisian Themes, The Philosophy of David K. Lewis. Oxford, Oxford University Press, 2004. Jackson, Frank. Lewis S. Life and Work, 1–15. Priest, Graham. Lewis S. Modal Realism Revisited, 45–60. Beebe, Helen, and A.R.J. Fisher, eds Philosophical Letters of David K. Lewis. 2 volumes. Oxford, Oxford University Press, 2020. Prayer, Gerhard and Frank Seebelt, eds Reality and Humean Supervenience, Essays on the Philosophy of David Lewis. Lanham MD, Roman and Littlefield, 2001.
Mics on the floor where they drop like bombs. Faceless voices running all the cons. Digital whispers in a binary night. No light, no face, pure sound, no sight. Stories unfold in the dark unscrolled. Echoes of silence, secrets untold. Waves crash loud in this audio cave. No light, no fame, just the sound we crave. Tune in, turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just the vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. Hidden in shadows, voices untamed. No need for spotlight, no claim to fame. Just a beat of life in a stream of thought. Every word a punchline, no need to be taught. Just listen close, no visuals needed. Raw conversation, unprocessed, unseated. Feel the pulse in every sentence said. No distractions, just thoughts in your head. Whispers of the streets, rumbling through. Faceless yet vivid, a world in view. No mic, just souls, connecting in flow. Pure and raw, let the rhythm go. Pure and raw. Pure and raw. Turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just the vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. Tune in, turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just the vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. Pure and raw.
Okay.